evening, viewers. You're watching 6 Stories at 6 and I am Rakshita Mishra with you. The top story that we're tracking for you today is how the US has itself revealed that India did not budge. India did not, like United States, dictate the terms of the trade deal. There are some claims made of a call that did not happen, but the MEA has debunked that claim. We'll tell you all that has transpired. And story number 2 is the high drama that's unfolding in the courts between ED and Mamata. That showdown has completely blown up. And from the courts to the protests happening on the streets, right outside the Home Minister's residence, the dramatic protests that took place by the TMC MPs. Also on the show, we get you how Iran is on the edge. The anger is only rising day by day, and Khamenei today, as he addressed the nation, took aim at Donald Trump, and he issued a warning to him. Also, we'll get you how Russia has gone completely ballistic once again. It has now fired a new hypersonic ballistic missile that has led to at least 4 deaths in Ukraine. And finally, we'll show you the latest from Turkman Gate in Old Delhi as the crackdown against the pelters continue, and the area has turned into a fortress today because of the Friday prayers. And let's start with the US-India trade tango. In the shadow of 500% tariff threat, the US Commerce Secretary has made several claims on why the India-US trade talks remain stuck. Now, Trump's aide, Howard Lutnick, admits that India did not budge. He also gave reasons which New Delhi now rejects for that. India has rejected US Lutnick's statement that the India-US trade deal fell due to Prime Minister Modi not calling the US president when it was agreed upon. Ministry of External Affairs has called out the bluff that has been peddled by Washington, D.C., calling the claims completely inaccurate, and has also pointed out that the two leaders have spoken at least 8 times last year. Now, but one thing is clear, viewers, India has indeed pushed back against the claims from the United States and has not let the United States dictate the term. India has not budged. India keeps national interest first. More in this report.
India didn't blink. India didn't bend. In a major revelation, the US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has admitted that India rejected America's original trade offer. The trade talks fell apart last year, and President Trump doubled tariffs on Indian goods in August to 50%. This also included a 25% levy in retaliation for India's purchases of Russian oil. Speaking on a podcast, Lutnick said that they had negotiated with other countries, assuming that the deal with India will happen earlier. In retaliation, the US admits it toughened the terms after India refused to agree over the last 4 months. Lutnick's comments come a day after US President Donald Trump approved the bipartisan Russia sanctions bill. The bill comes with the threat of tariffs up to 500% on all goods imported from any country that continues to trade with Russian oil. India was expected to comply, but Prime Minister Narendra Modi refused to capitulate. India refused to compromise.
We have seen the remarks. India and the United States were committed to negotiating a bilateral trade agreement with the US as far back as 13th of February last year, that is. Since then, two sides have held multiple rounds of negotiations to arrive at a balanced and mutually beneficial trade agreement. On several occasions, we have been close to a deal. The characterization of these discussions in the reported remarks is not accurate.
A clear message to the entire world. When it comes to trade, India negotiates but never surrenders national interest.
And the confrontation between the Trinamool Congress and the Enforcement Directorate has now moved to the courtroom, and how? What began as a political face-off has escalated into a legal battle with both sides approaching the Calcutta High Court. But let us be very clear that this is an investigative process that was interrupted. Now, the standoff that took place at IPAC office, Enforcement Directorate has filed a petition alleging that its officials were obstructed from carrying out lawful duties and were subjected to intimidation through multiple FIRs. The Trinamool Congress, meanwhile, has hit back, moving the High Court against the ED and alleging political vendetta behind the searches. More in this report.
The tussle between TMC and the Enforcement Directorate is no more just theatrical. It is now playing out in the Calcutta courtroom.
The Enforcement Directorate before the court is essentially making a plea that they want the court to intervene, and hopefully the court is going to direct the Central Bureau of Investigation to investigate this entire matter, because they believe that the Bengal police has been completely discredited in the manner they conducted themselves along with the Chief Minister. Someone who holds a constitutional position has essentially violated her position, has abused power and intimidated Enforcement Directorate officers.
After the political showdown at IPAC office yesterday, ED filed a petition against Mamata in the court. Republic exclusively accessed the Enforcement Directorate's petition that said the Directorate's officials were not allowed to perform their duties. TMC registered FIRs against ED officers, criminally intimidating them, putting pressure to refrain from the raids. ED moved Calcutta High Court seeking CBI FIR against Mamata Banerjee after she hauled the files from IPAC office into her car. But this is not all. Now TMC itself moved to High Court against the Enforcement Directorate, alleging political motive behind IPAC raids. ED had clarified that the raids are in relation to the coal scam, but TMC has filed 3 FIRs against the investigative agency. Not only this, just minutes ahead of the hearing, Mamata staged protest in Calcutta. The matter was adjourned today after commotion in the court. The showdown by Mamata Banerjee yesterday and TMC's offensive trail against ED officers do arise suspicion on what was hidden in the files that Mamata took. A suspicion that BJP voiced out loud.
ममता जी, आपको घबराहट क्यों है? The BJP would like to ask Madam Mamata ji, what is your linkage with that consultancy firm? आपको इतनी घबराहट हो गई? वो तो कंसल्टेंसी फर्म कई का काम करती है। लेकिन अगर घोटालों की जांच हो रही है, कोल स्कैम की जांच हो रही है, तो आपको इतनी परेशानी क्यों है? ये हमें बात समझ में नहीं आती।
The political tussle aside, all eyes are now on the Calcutta courtroom.
From the courtrooms to the national capital, we've seen that this fight is only blowing up. Yesterday it was Kolkata, today it was also the national capital that witnessed the political drama, the demonstration drama, the protest drama by Mamata Banerjee's TMC. The TMC MPs in fact staged a massive protest right outside Union Home Minister Amit Shah's residence, Amit Shah's office in fact, over ED's raids against IPAC. The TMC termed the raids as political vendetta ahead of the 2026 West Bengal Assembly elections. In fact, many of the MPs were dragged out, they were also detained. Listen in.
Surrounding the Home Ministry, targeting the Home Minister. These are leaders of Mamata Banerjee's TMC, led by parliamentarians.
ये जिस कायर तरीके से अमित शाह डरपोक है, ईडी को भेजता है, दिल्ली में सांसदों को जिस तरीके से हमारे ऊपर हमला कर रहे हैं, बीजेपी बंगाल कभी नहीं जीतेगा। हम ममता बनर्जी और अभिषेक बनर्जी के सोल्जर हैं, हम अमित शाह से नहीं डरते हैं, हम लड़ेंगे और बंगाल जीतेंगे।
The high-voltage drama that unfolded in Kolkata yesterday had spread to the national capital by this morning. Holding placards and chanting slogans, TMC MPs and workers surrounded the Home Ministry and protested against ED raids at the IPAC office yesterday. Browbeating and blaming the BJP, sticking to the line that ED was trying to hamper the election strategy by raiding the IPAC head office. While TMC is attributing these raids to their political rival BJP, the question is, what so crucial was there in those papers that Mamata Banerjee had to rush mid-raids? A question that she yesterday evaded.
দিদি চুরির টাকা ব্যবহার হয়েছে দিদি মমতা ব্যানার্জি চুরির টাকা ব্যবহার করেছেন মমতা ব্যানার্জি আপনারা কি চুরির টাকা ইলেকশনে ব্যবহার করেছেন মমতা ব্যানার্জি আপনারা কি কয়লা চুরির টাকা ব্যবহার করেছেন মমতা ব্যানার্জি আপনারা কি কয়লা চুরির টাকা ব্যবহার করেছেন মমতা ব্যানার্জি আপনারা কি কয়লা চুরির টাকা ব্যবহার করেছেন আপনারা কি কয়লা চুরির টাকা ব্যবহার করেছেন ইলেকশনে আপনারা কি কয়লা চুরির টাকা ক্যামেরাটা এদিকে আপনারা কি কয়লা চুরির টাকা ব্যবহার করেছেন আমাদের দালাল বলছেন এদিকে ক্যামেরা আলিদা এদিকে মমতা বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায় আপনি কি কয়লা চুরির টাকা ব্যবহার করেছেন ইলেকশনে আপনি আমাদের দালাল বলছেন কেন
You're seeing what is happening with Amit Shah's Delhi police. You're seeing what is happening to MPs. All our MPs have been picked up. Stop, Governor. Governor. No. Don't say my shot. ये मत करो. ये देखो क्या हो रहा है.
अमित शाह शर्म करो
देखिए, अगर एक लहजे एक शब्द में कहें कि बंगाल में ईडी का एक्शन है और दिल्ली में टीएमसी का रिएक्शन है तो गलत नहीं होगा। केंद्रीय जांच एजेंसी ईडी बंगाल में जिस तरीके से अपनी जांच कर रही थी, उसके बाद पश्चिम बंगाल की मुख्यमंत्री जिस तरीके से अपना व्यवहार करती है पूरी तरीके से हास्यास्पद है। उसके बाद आज जब गृह मंत्रालय के बाहर टीएमसी के तमाम सांसद और कार्यकर्ता वहां पर सुबह के समय करीबन 9 बजे का वो वक्त होता है जब वो लोग धरने पर पहुंच जाते हैं और धरना प्रदर्शन करते हैं, वहां पर नारे लगाना शुरू कर देते हैं। गृह मंत्री अमित शाह और प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी के खिलाफ उनका साफ तौर से कहना होता है कि ये लोग केंद्र की सत्ता पर काबिज जो बीजेपी है वो केंद्रीय जांच एजेंसी का दुरुपयोग कर रही है। उनका कहना होता है कि बंगाल के चुनाव में हम केंद्रीय जांच एजेंसी का दुरुपयोग करने नहीं देंगे।
While ED had clarified the raids were in relation to the coal scam, the TMC has made it purely electoral. The fight is now playing out in the court of law.
Meanwhile, Iran is witnessing violent anti-government protests for the 13th straight day as Iranians say that down with the dictator. Iranians are angered by a collapsing economy and the security crackdowns march through the streets of Tehran and other major cities in the country. Now this even as Iran's Supreme Leader today, Ayatollah Khamenei, addressed the nation, dismissing international criticism and declaring that Iran will not back down, while he accused the United States of interference and saying that President Donald Trump should mind his own country, should take care of the issues in America. Here's a quick report as the demonstrations now sweep across Tehran province. Tehran is literally burning.
Iranian cities, including Tehran, saw massive turnout, even as Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei addressed the nation, vowing Iran will not back down and accusing the US of fueling unrest. Protesters, however, continued chanting against the regime and praising exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. Khamenei's hardline remarks came amid violent clashes, worsening economic anger, and the sharp fall of Iran's currency. Despite his warning, crowds only grew louder across Tehran and beyond. Iran witnesses a steady continuation, if not a rise, in the wave of protests that has shaken up the country from within. The protests over sanctions tightening and Iran financially struggling, especially in the aftermath of the June war with Israel and a sharp drop of its royal currency in December 2025. The currency drop was the last straw for those struggling in the already failing economy, and protests were said to have begun right after December 28th onwards. The protests by Friday have reached the 13th consecutive day of demonstrations, and so far they don't appear to be easing down anytime soon. Iran's Tehran province has particularly witnessed a massive protest, wherein gunfire was heard as well. Protesters on Iran have engaged violently, setting cars and motorcycles of the Islamic regime security forces on fire. Flights have additionally been suspended at the Tabriz International Airport. Furthermore, internet access and telephone lines have also been cut out as demonstrations grow in number in the protests called by the exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. And the global attention these protests and violence have garnered does not seem to bode well for Iran. US President Trump promptly sprung to the occasion and reiterated his claim of engaging in violence with Iran if they continued killing people. All eyes now remain on Iran as the world awaits to see how Iran alters its regime to meet its natives' demands, as without a viable alternative to the current ruling system, protests are unlikely to instigate regime change, and this is despite the widespread unrest underscoring the profound crisis confronting Iran's government.
Meanwhile, Russia has confirmed the use of its new Oreshnik intermediate-range ballistic missile in a massive overnight attack on Ukraine, marking a significant escalation in the ongoing war. The strike, carried out using a combination of ballistic missiles and drones, killed at least 4 people in Kiev and injuring more than 22 in Ukrainian capital, while also targeting critical infrastructure in the western city of Lviv. Ukrainian authorities, meanwhile, say that several residential neighborhoods in Kiev were also hit, leaving buildings damaged, fires raging, and essential services disrupted. Here's more.
Russia launched a massive overnight missile and drone attack on Ukraine, killing 4 and wounding at least 22 in the capital Kyiv. Among the dead was an emergency medical aid worker. 5 rescue personnel were also injured while responding to the ongoing strikes. Several districts of Kyiv were hit. In one of the districts, a drone crashed onto a residential rooftop, damaging multiple floors.
В кімнаті з собакою, якраз перед вікном, побачив якісь красні огняні шари, такі 4-5 штук. Потім пройшов взрив, у мене вікно вибилось. Я шукаю собаку, собака кудись зникла. Я дивився в вікно і дивлюсь, що горить подружки моєї будинок. Я вибіг туди, до них, щоб подивитися, як вони що.
In the Dnipro district, debris from a drone strike triggered a fire inside a multi-story building. The attack disrupted electricity, water and heating supplies across parts of the capital.
Те, що Росія робить, звісно, що вони показують, що вони не хочуть миру. Але люди хочуть миру дуже. Страдають люди і гинуть люди. Сьогодні багато і загинуло і поранених МЧСників, і медик загинув, по-моєму, в Дарницькому районі, там і поранених дуже багато. Мир потрібен, і дуже швидко потрібен, бо з нашої країни нічого не останеться.
Russia also struck critical infrastructure in the western city of Lviv using a high-speed ballistic missile. Ukrainian officials said that the missile traveled at nearly 13,000 kilometers per hour. Reports say that the target was a massive underground natural gas storage facility in the Lviv region. Russia's defense ministry called the attack a retaliation for an alleged Ukrainian drone strike on President. Ukraine and US President Donald Trump have both rejected Russia's claim of the attack on Putin's residence. Zelensky said that Moscow was attempting to exploit freezing temperatures and icy conditions to intensify attacks. Authorities say that the situation remains under assessment as Ukraine evaluates the scale and intent of the attack.
That's all we could pack in this edition of 6 Stories at 6. We'll be right back with live and breaking at 6:30.